Okay, as you can see, first of all, from the date, we can start the date maybe over here, just before the address, or over here, just after the address. So let's say, for the sake of example, the date can be written in this format like 1 6 11, or date can be written in this format. Let's say first June 2011. So both formats are fine, whatever you'll be writing. Afterward, leaving one line, we can start with the person name to whom you're writing. Let's say if there is some name given over there, so we can write it down. Maybe let's say Dr. Alex Mohan. Or if there is no name given, we can write it down in this way. Let's say maybe uh, emergency registrar, for example. Whatever the title is given, we can write it down in this way, right? Anyhow, so after writing the address, we can name or can write down the address of the patient. Let's say if I can write it down, okay, let me make it more simple. Let's say in this way. Let's say the address can be written in this format: the name of the person to whom you're writing this letter, the recipient name, the designation if it's given, department, seat or road address, and the city. And if there are postal code, we can also write down the postal codes. Leaving one line, we can write down the date as we discussed earlier, maybe that way. Then we can write it down maybe dear Dr. Mohan, comma, and then leaving one line, we can write down RE regarding, stand for, let's say patient name is John Abuzi, with title as well, Mr. And then comma and his date of birth, whatever is given, right? So if you can see there, this is the basic layout that you have to follow in writing a letter, followed by some of the grammatical clauses that you must have in your writing task. For example, if you are writing a referral letter, so we can have some statements. That is one of the common statement that we can use. Let's say thank you for seeing maybe Mr. Abuzi. If it's an urgent referral letter, we can just add the thank you for urgently seeing Mr. Abuzi, right? So this is basically the introductory line. We can also rephrase this line with this one: I'm writing to refer. It's also fine, right? Anyhow, after this line, I'm writing to refer Mr. Abuzi. Let's say in both of the cases, then we have a positive noun, the quality of the noun. We can add in over here. If you have written the date, we can also write it down. Maybe, let's say 56-year-old. That the format of the date, you can look it closely with the hyphenated format, right? When you write it down, if you have written this thing like that, 56 years old, it's grammatically wrong. Why? Because with a you cannot use s. So the right approach is this one: a 56-year-old with hyphens, right? Put comma. This should be comma over here. This is comma. After 56-year-old, or else if you can cover the profession over here, maybe a factory worker. If it's important, we can write it down over here. Maybe an accountant. So this is basically a positive noun, the quality of the noun that we can use in a sentence, right? Then we can write it down, let's say, with suggestive features, let's say, suggestive of whatever the condition, right? For maybe further management. Let's say if you see there that this introduction has three parts. The first one is the introduction of the patient, like who the patient is, maybe. Then what is the problem the patient is having and what do you want? So you must have a clear reason of writing in the introduction. Now with reference to grammar, you can see that we can use a positive noun, relative clause, right? And we should put comma after that as well. So these are some of the clauses that you can see in the introduction. Let me write it more clearly for you. Let's say thank you for seeing Mr. Abruzzi, put comma afterward, uh, an accountant, let's say, then put comma, whose features are suggestive of, let's say, diabetes mellitus, then again comma, for further management. Now this is the rule of grammar. We must see if we are going to add comma over here, there should, like there must be comma over here. What I mean to say that, let's say if you are stopping sentence over here from thank you, same sentence as I've written above, seeing Mr. Abruzzi, let's say, sorry over here this comma I'm talking about, an accountant, then I'm not adding any comma whose features are suggestive of diabetes mellitus, full stop. Then I would appreciate if you could manage for the marriage. Then when we are completing the sentence, there must be comma over here and here. But when you are writing in a flow, like thank you for seeing Mr. Abruzzi, whose features are suggestive of diabetes mellitus, full stop. And I would appreciate if you are further management, then there is no comma. Okay. So that is the difference between defining and non-defining clause. If you would like to ask any question, please feel free to ask me. Body of the paragraph, the commonly used tense is the past tense, right? So we could have past simple, we can say past perfect, right? So let's say if you can see that, maybe we can write it down. Mr. Abruzzi, let's say, initially presented with, let's say, a complaint of pain in his, let's say, or if you can write down with reference to diabetes, we can just write down with a complaint of, or let's say, so let's say this is the presenting complaint after introduction. We can see We are just focusing majorly on the grammar part. So presented, reported, past simple tense, right? Then the cohesive devices could be used. Let's say consequently, he was advised to lose his weight. So within the past tense, you can see that I'm using two tenses. He was advised. Again, past simple. So body of the letter can be, we can say, written in the past simple tense, right? We can also use the past perfect. I will give you an example for that. Let's say, uh, Mr. Bruzy, who had had, let's say, or let's say, sorry, who had been a regular member of maybe cycling club for 3 months in maybe, if this is 2022, so we can write on 2020. So you can see that I'm writing with past perfect. However, he did not attend cycling club and he presented to us for the first time. So now you can see that I have used two tenses. Mr. Bruzy, who had been a regular member of the past perfect continuous for 3 months, however, he did not attend. So two tenses together can be written in the body of the letter. So I will just summarize things for you in the letter, specifically reference tenses. So we have present simple tense. We can use that as well. So we have past simple tense. We can use them as well. We have the perfect form of a tense, maybe in the past or maybe in the present. So we all know the rules and regulation of these tenses before I will discuss them. Like in the present simple, we just use the first form of the verb, and with third person singular, we use maybe s or es with that, right? So in terms of OET writing, present simple can be used to describe the habits of the patient, right? Or anything that has been associated with the patient, let's say history. Mostly, we can use present simple tense uh, in the his habits or history part. Or at time, we can use present simple in the introduction as well, right? So the use of tenses can be appropriate, and you can learn them by practicing letter in different format. For example, uh, as I discussed with you, I'm writing to refer. Thank you for seeing Mr. XYZ, whose feature are suggestive of diabetes mellitus. So this was present simple tense. It's more simple. I just want to address this concern of yours, if you have any. Past simple majorly can be used in the body of the letter, throughout the body, minus conclusion and intro. But at time, it can be written in whole letter, maybe in intro as well. For example, I'm writing a thank you for seeing Mr. XYZ, who presented today with acute chest pain, who presented earlier today with acute chest pain, like that, right? So we can write it down in the introduction as well and in the conclusion as well. The past simple rule is simple. You have to use the ed form with the verb, or maybe we did you use the first form. Then we have perfect tense. So basically, in writing mostly, we must have the mastery in these two tenses to use them appropriately. Why? Because most of the time you are covering the events, the history of the events, right? So if you can see, whatever your profession would be, history of event mean that may be something started in the past, remain continue, maybe ended in the past. Like if there is a transition of time, started in the past, remain continue, and ended in the past, we can use the past perfect. Present is different. If we have something started in the past, remain continue, and just finished in present, this is your present perfect. And if something, maybe you can see that something such as progression of condition and repetition. For these two things in term of medicine, we can use the perfect form. Depend upon how would you describe the event. Right? So is it clear to you, all of you? Some of the useful line that most of the candidates are not using appropriately, I will discuss them as well in the grammar portion. Like the useful part will be, let's say, how would you write down the investigation part? The ECG, let's say, indicated maybe possible sign of ischemia, maybe. For the, let's say, the liver function test showed such possible obstruction, or maybe the X-ray detected maybe fracture, right? Anyhow, so you can see that these are a few of the useful lines that you can use for the investigation part. Of the common useful things in the introduction, we can say for the present illness, we can write it down initially. He presented maybe in, let's say, November 1996. Use in when you are writing about the, you can say, the month, or we can also write down initially he presented to my clinic on, maybe if you have the date, maybe we can just write on, for example, 1 November 1996. We can write it down those two dates over here in this way. Initially he presented to my clinic on this date, or initially he presented in November. So the difference between in and on, it's a minor thing, but as this is a grammar class, so I'm discussing with you. Or we can also write down he presented, let's say, if this is a follow-up to my clinic for, let's say, a routine checkup, right? We can also write down he presented to my clinic with symptoms of, let's say, right? Okay, so I hope something as a habit, or maybe something that we can say in the present tense, the usual phenomena, such as if we can write down about a symptom, we can write down the pain occurs on exercise. Might be written in the body of the letter, but as you can see, this is a phenomena and not in the past tense. Okay, let's say he was feverish, past tense when you describe symptom. Okay, the linkers word are appreciated, such as furthermore, sorry, consequently, however, can be used as you feel is appropriate. Okay. So, similarly, for these socioeconomic details, we can just write down he is a smoker, or if we have time phrase, we can write it down he has been smoking. Is a smoker, or he has been smoking for the last 15 years. Both can be written, right? The important part. Okay. Similarly, for the present tense, as I mentioned, they started in the past, and we can write down the pain. The patient has not responded to the, let's say, simple painkiller. You can use present perfect tense as well, right? Or we can write down his condition no usually settles with, let's say, rest. However, this medication, or sorry, however, the symptom trigger if you start doing the work in parallel. We are discussing about distance between since for an hour. So what do you think? How they are different from each other? She has had diabetes since on 4. It's an example. Then we can write it down. Maybe she has been in the same sentence suffering from diabetes for the last 10 years. Maybe. And let's say over a period of, you can write down over a period of 3 months, his condition has worsened. So we have some differences between the tenses. We discuss about the simple tense. We discuss about the past perfect, past and present simple. We discuss about perfect and perfect continuous. We can use as well, had as well. But when we have to use the has, it should be in the present simple form, right? Then we have some other things that is sentences. In sentences part, we have we can say simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. Like simple sentence, when we have subject, verb, object, is a simple sentence. Compound, and when we go for the combination of two simple sentences, it's called compound. By adding and with that, and complex sentences to combine, we can say one dependent and one independent clause. Right? We can use the complex. So let's say he is a smoker. Example of simple sentence. We can use the he is a smoker and a drinker, right? So You can also write down, let's say, although he is a smoker, he does not drink. So, use of the complex sentence. The common mistake candidate do use this sentence in this way, although he is a smoker, but right. So we can say the common sentence we will use but. Although he is a smoker, but he is not a drinker. It's a common mistake, but cannot be used with although if you have used although already in a sentence. Is it clear to you? We have the concept of articles. We'll discuss in the grammar week in detail. And we use are, and the. These two are countable articles, and this is definite article. When we have a countable noun, and if it's singular, we can use are before that. But when we have a uncountable noun with vowel, we can use and before that. Right? Simple things that need to be discussed. Okay. And mostly, the name of the diseases should be written with a lowercase, such as diabetes, hypertension. But if it's name against the scientist, like Parkinson, so Parkinson should be P capital, Alzheimer, A capital, right? Name of diseases. If it's name against the scientist, we can use them capital letter. Then we have the we can say the medicine name. If it's against the brand name, then the first letter should be capital or uppercase. If it's not brand name, it's a generic name or you can say salt name, right? So in that case, it should be in the lowercase. I hope it's clear to you and you will remember that. Okay. And name of the address, maybe department or whatever, it should be written in capital letter. Is it clear to you? That I forget is do we not use the I will appreciate. Will is harsh word. Rather use would. Make it more as letter writing is formal. We prefer to use the passive voice, and we must know the rules of passive voice. In the sentences part, we have three clauses that should be used. The clause of contrast with despite, in spite, even though, although, and so on. In contrast, for example, uh, I will write it down for you. Even though, let's say, even though he has completed his rehabilitation, his mobility is still compromised. Basically, it's two sentences I have written. Although he has completed present perfect tense and his mobility has or mobility is still compromised. Present simple tense. Is it clear to you? So we can use the clauses in the grammar portion. We can have clause of contrast as I discussed with you. We have clause of purpose. So what we have in the clause of purpose actually? Purpose clause, like let's say, I would write it down for you. In order to lose his weight, maybe a low fat diet has been recommended. So, this is the example of clause of purpose. In order to lose his weight, a low fat diet has been recommended, right? Similarly, we have the clause of reason. Where it's appropriate, use it. Let's say due to let's say high blood pressure, he was let's say due to high blood pressure, he was admitted urgently in the hospital. So we have different clauses, contrast, purpose, and reason clause. Can be written in parallel. Can be written in parallel. We also have time clauses such as on that time admission. We should split with the comma. Okay. So I hope is it clear to you? Okay.